Good evening, everybody. It is Straight Talk Food for the Soul. Glad to have you here tonight. We have some great guests tonight. We have Lady Fred and we have Minister Joy tonight. And our topic tonight is triumph over abandonment as a child. We're gonna pray in, and then we're gonna jump right in. Minister Joy, I ask you to pray us in tonight.
Okay, sure will. Father God, we just thank you for this another awesome opportunity to come before your presence, Lord God. We just believe and pray that everyone here on the live now and even on the replay, Lord, will receive exactly what it is that they need, Lord God. Let everything that we say be to your glory. Lord God, we just believe even right now, Lord, that deliverance is happening, Father, in Jesus' name.
Amen.
Amen. Ladies, I don't know if y'all seen my podcast at all, but what I kind of do is we read our scripture first, and I found something appropriate for tonight. And then I give a couple of definitions, and it's really strange. Normally I have a bunch, but tonight I only have two. And just like I asked you to come and put your life on display, I have the same challenge that you guys have had. I did not live with my mother as a child. So I know this is a tender subject. Sometimes it can be difficult, but it's for God's glory, and we never know who's watching. And there's some little girl or some little boy that might need us tonight, and they're going to get a glimpse of our lives knowing that God is a deliverer. So tonight our scripture is going to be Isaiah the 49th chapter, verse 15. And it says, "Can a woman forget her nursing child, that she should have no compassion on the son of her womb? Even these may forget, yet I will not forget you." So even though our parents may have dropped the ball, God did not drop the ball. And whatever happens to us in life, we were built for this task tonight and for our journey in Christ. I have two words. I'm going to read my definition, and you guys kind of tell me what you think about it if you want to add or take away to the definition. My first definition is abandonment. It says to leave completely and finally, forsake utterly, to desert. What do you guys think about the definition?
I think it's pretty spot on.
Yeah, pretty
Yeah.
straightforward.
When I looked at it says completely and finally. I don't know about you guys' story, and I know a little bit of each of yours. My mother is around, and she is in my life. So it wasn't final for me. So in that definition, because she's around, she is
Okay.
being grandmother to my grandchildren, to
Mhm.
my children. Our next one is pain, physical suffering, discomfort, something that causes physical or mental discomfort.
I agree with that one as well.
Okay.
I think that's accurate. Yeah.
Physical or mental. Yeah.
Yeah. But going
Oh,
back to the first
Yeah,
definition,
that's what I wanted to do.
I will say that for me, it wasn't final either. So it was not the case in my life either that my mom I did not grow up in the house with her all of my life. Um but she has remained for a long time a kind of like a shadow of a presence in my life. So she wasn't active in my life, but she was in the background of my life is what I'll say. It's the only way I can really describe it. She was in the background of my life, connected through my by her family, her side of the family I grew up with and still very close to, even though she wasn't there. Um, and so she's always had access, I guess, to us, or could find out what was going on with us, but she wasn't an active part of our life.
And for me, my mom is around as well. Me being in foster care for all of my childhood. Well, most of my childhood until I was 12. So, of course, it felt very final as a child because you don't know, the legal part of life, and you don't know a lot of the things that adults deal with. All you know is mom was there and now she's not.
Right.
That's all you know. So really she didn't abandon me in that sense. Like she, is still around. But the feeling of abandonment, it just feels so final.
Absolutely. I agree
Mhm.
with that.
My mom is almost 80, and I have become part of her caregiver. And I want to say to all my viewers, people who are going to see, this is not a mother bashing
Oh
session,
no.
but this is our story and how it has affected us in our daily lives and our relationships with our husbands, children, friends, and family. But we're not bashing. There's no bashing about it. But one of my sisters said, because I did tell my brothers and sisters, and I only didn't reach out to one because I didn't want them to feel harm. And I even went to my mom and I told her I turned my pain into purpose, into my passion, and that is to use the gifts of help. And this is one way that the ministry comes through. And I didn't want her, because we have same Facebook friends, we go to church together. I wanted her to know it was going to happen. So if her family members see it, she won't be, oh my God.
No.
Hmm.
So I just wanted her to put her on alert. And both of you guys know me personally. I'm just like real matter of fact, very upfront. And what you see is what you get. So it is what it is. But I have never really asked my mom where she was until the pandemic hit. And I was moved in with her for 6 months. And like the week I was about to go and move back into my own home, I just asked, where were you? My question was, what was so important that you weren't there? And I don't know if it's because she's older now or she hasn't resolved all her feelings. There was just no explanation. And I have to be satisfied with what I got. I
Right.
can't pick it apart, try to make it better. It is just what it was. That was how she saw it, what happened. I don't know what transpired in her life with my father and my other family on her side or my dad's side. I just, I didn't get an answer. So I just had to learn to live with it the way it is. And I don't think I really resolved all my feelings about it until I was 53. I'm 56 now, but it took me most of the journey of my life to just deal with the fact that I wasn't going to have the mom that I desired. I just had to accept the mom that was here. So you guys tell me how you guys are resolved with whatever the situation is with you guys.
Well, for
Well,
me, oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
no, go ahead. I'm sorry, Minister Joy.
Okay, well, I'm 49, right? 50 in September, if I say the same. And I just realized in this last year that I had not forgiven my mom the way I thought that I had. And
Mm.
how that all came about is my mom got really sick last year, March 13th, as a matter of fact, and went into the hospital and could never go back to live alone anymore. Now, when I called the hospital, I called 911. That was not my plan. My plan was they're going to patch you up and send you back home. God was like, no, we're going to patch her up and send her to you. And,
Mm.
and yeah. And, it was different because before she would come over on the weekends and I would take her home and it was fine. But when she lived in my home every day, all day long, and we were on top of each other, some things started coming out. And I know I didn't know was still in there. And, and her having, stages of dementia to add to it. She's 83, just turned 83 Wednesday, praise God. It just was a lot. And then one day she actually told me, I don't like you because, you're a liar and your dad is a liar. And so that makes you a liar. And now I had no idea what she was talking about. It was a dementia mainly, probably, but the enemy used that because I was still dealing with abandonment issues I didn't realize from being in foster care from age 4 until 12. So when she said that to me, the enemy was just like, well, yeah. I said, yeah, that makes sense. That's why she left me. That's why I was in foster care all
Mm.
those years. That's why this happened. That's why this happened. And it was just like all night long, literally tormenting. And then the next morning, she called me to the room. I'm like, oh, I want to talk to her, God, please. But she said, I'm so sorry to say those things. I'm just mad and I'm just angry because I'm here and I want to be back on my own in my house. And, God allowed me to see it from her view. What if you went to sleep and woke up and you were somewhere else? Because she doesn't remember actually anything that happened. But my sister came over and was like, that's not true. And she began to tell me exactly how it wasn't true and the things that they all sacrificed so that my mom could see me in foster care and all the stuff that, of course, I didn't know about because I was a kid. So, but, she unfortunately did have to end up going to nursing home because of her health. But I thank God because, like I said, it did bring out some things that I didn't know were that I didn't know were still down there, and we were able to get them resolved. So, I praise God for that.
Go ahead, Lady Friend.
So yeah, I've come to realize this about God is sometimes that he won't give you sometimes you get your healing in stages. Sometimes it's not all at once. He'll give it to you because, God is wise and all knowing and he knows what you can handle. And so your healing from that, the abandonment or whatever life issues you have can sometimes just come in phases and different stages of your life when you're prepared to or able to handle it. And so I share that because I started really dealing with my issues with my mom when I was 30. It was after my husband proposed to me. He was just like, you got to go to counseling. You got some issues you need to work through. And the biggest issue that I had really was my mom, and how and those abandonment issues, self-sabotage issues, depression, all these things I was dealing with, that honestly I didn't think was a result of what happened with my mom leaving. I just thought that it was normal because I had lived that way and felt those feelings for a very long time. And so when I went to counseling and really started sharing a lot about what I had been through, my counselor asked me, have you ever asked your mom why she left? And I never asked my mom why she left. It never was something I even thought to ask her. And so she was like, well, your homework is to call her. And so I was able to get in touch with her and I asked her why she left. And my mom left um, when she was addicted to drugs. And, so in the 80s, crack was new and tearing up the communities, Black community, minority communities. And so when she left, she was on drugs. Like she left. And so from her point of view, her and my father agreed that she would leave. And so, I take it with a grain of salt. It was, you guys were adults. I was 8 years old. I don't know really what the situation was. And then from my dad's point of view, it was that they didn't agree. It was a hypothetical that if you left, don't take my kids with you. And so, that, things get lost in translation. And so, but the biggest part of it is that, um, she was not in her right mind to take care of us, not in her right mind to be a wife anymore, not in the right mind to be a mother, not in the right mind to be really anything to anybody because she was consumed by an addiction that, you know, is realistic. So at the end of the day, I can't necessarily say that she chose drugs over her family, but at the time, the addiction was stronger than her commitment to stay, and it was, helping her in some way. Um, and so, it just is what it is, or was what it was. Like she was addicted. And then I shared that the healing comes in stages because I have been okay with that answer for a very, very long time. I'm just turned 40 last week. And so over the past, just this year, me and her have kind of reconnected again. And, have really I had actually had an opportunity to go spend her 63rd birthday with her a couple of weeks ago, and we sat at the kitchen table and had a conversation. And it was I was able to ask her more questions about the addiction and the things she had gone through in life even before the addiction, and really just kind of get an understanding of who she was and why she made the decisions that she made and why she even tried crack in the first place, and just everything, just really having being able to really get to know her, because in all honesty I realized I really didn't know much about her other than she left. And so, her answer was still the same, that they kind of agreed that she would leave, but ultimately the decision was based on the drugs were an escape for her. And she had grown up and dealt with a lot of issues as a child. And by the time she was 15, she had my oldest brother. By the time she was 17, she had my older sister. And she married into a religious family. My father grew up Pentecostal, so she married into a family who's with my grandparents were ministers, deacons, and my great grandfather was the bishop. And so she married into this family that had very high expectations of her. And she had never even dealt with a lot of her childhood trauma of her own that she had dealt with. So many things. And so the drugs became an escape. And I've never been addicted to anything. And so I can't tell you, um, if what kind of decision I would have made, but ultimately it was the drugs became an escape. And that escape was, you know, uh, it became a place for her, a safe place for her to not deal with her reality of her life and what she hadn't dealt with. And so she made a decision, which in hindsight, it was a good decision, because she left us with our dad. So, and I have an amazing dad. I'm extremely close to my dad. And so she felt like she left us in a safe place. And so over the years, it's kind of been like, well, you guys were okay, so you shouldn't be mad at me. But um, basically that's kind of the gist of it, was like, I did the right thing. I left you with someone I knew could take care of you. And so I agree. But what I had the opportunity to share with her on her birthday was that it wasn't about who you left us with. It was about the fact that we lost you. So, regardless of us having a great life and my dad taking very good care of us, and my dad remarried and we had a great life, besides all that, nothing that happened in our life or nothing that we had, with my dad could ever replace the fact that she was missing from our life. And so I for me, and having that conversation with my mom healed a different side of me, because initially when I first went to counseling and asked her why she left, I was dealing with severe depression, and I had started dealing with it I'm pretty sure I started dealing with it since the age of 8 years old. And
Wow.
it would come at the same time every year. But as I got older, it was like I couldn't get out of it. It was I thought it was seasonal depression, because I get depressed and I come out of it. The older I got, it was getting so close I couldn't get out of it anymore. It was starting to be a cycle, and it was just this. I was depressed. And so when the therapist asked me to ask my mom, and then I talked to her, and then I talked to my dad, and my dad's like, and I told him, like, I get depressed every year, same exact time. I don't know why. And my dad said, well, that's the exact time your mom left. And I have a brother who's 4 years younger than me. And I remember the day my mom dropped us off at my uncle's house, because my dad was away with the military at the time. So she dropped us off at my uncle's house. And I remember thinking to myself, as long as he's okay, I'll be okay. And I was 8 and he was 4. And I knew back then that, if I cry, he's gonna cry. You know what I'm saying? So I just didn't cry. And so when I started going to counseling 22 years later, I had days where I literally had to lay on the floor and cry like an 8-year-old child, because I had to get out, because I never dealt with the emotions of my mom leaving. And so that was just helping me to grow up emotionally, that first healing that took place when I asked her. And then now, over the past 9, 10 years, I've just long for a mother, and I
Mm.
just want to be mothered, and I just want someone to mother me. And I have a lot of great women who have been a mother to me or have extended themselves as a mother to me, but it's been difficult for me to embrace it, because I'm like, I want my own mother to be this. So that expectation was there of something that, um, I was kind of, I don't think I was upset, but I just wanted what I wanted. And now I'm in the place where I'm like, I don't care what my mom has to offer. Whatever she can give me as my mother, whatever relationship we can have, I'm going to take it and I'm going to cherish it. And I'm not going to put all these expectations on her. But it took these past, since January, actually, me spending one-on-one time with her where I've gotten to that point and was able to have a conversation. And again, I say that God heals differently and in stages. And so now it's satisfied in some ways that desire in me for, oh, I want a mother. And it's a different kind of healing, and it's just kind of amazing. God is amazing.
Because your mommy don't live far down the street,
No,
Lady France.
I know.
Joy, she was
Yeah.
talking about her dad. Was your dad in your life?
My dad was not an active part of my life. In fact, I've only actually seen my dad twice in my life.
Wow.
Once when I was, yeah, twice. Once when I was 8, I was actually in a foster home, and we went downtown to the mall here in Buffalo. And my foster mother kept saying, "Is that him? Is that him?" And I'm like, "I think it is," because I hadn't really seen him, but I did kind of know. And then when I was 12, um, I saw him literally. I just believe God transplanted him right in front of me. I had to go to the hospital. I was with my sister. We couldn't find my mom. The ambulance would not take me because she wasn't old enough to sign. And I mean, when I tell you, literally, we looked up and my father was walking down the street. And my sister said, "Is that your father?" And he came just to sign the papers and left. And that was it. It was amazing. And the next time I heard from him, he said he was gonna come and take me school shopping. That was like August. And he never showed up. And then I found out in February that he had actually died the
Wow.
December, like a couple months after school started. So that was it. So it's funny, but I hold on to that memory of him signing those papers for me forever. Like, I don't care what my birth certificate says. I don't care who says what. He didn't sign that paper, but he signed this paper stating I am her father. So I'm going to take it.
And I heard something that both of you seem to say, y'all are kind of, I don't know if I'm hearing it wrong. Like Lady Fran said, because of what happened in January, something in you is satisfied. I hope my mom is not offended. My mom's been around for 30 years. My daughter is 32. And I met her when she was 6 months. Really met her because I seen her once when I was 12. I remember she called me for graduation from high school. And I'm being nasty. I was a nasty cuss. I cussed her. I was a mean somebody then. And then I know when I married my children's father, she called me and she sent me money for the wedding to help with the wedding pictures. And then Deborah was 6 months old, and my sister brought her to Atlanta. And she said, "I have a surprise for you." And I was like, "What?" And I just saw her standing there, and I'm like, "Okay, what?" Uh, and the first thought came, do I have the right to take their grandmother? It was never me,
Right.
but did I have that right to take her away from them? So
Yes.
I extended myself and stretched myself emotionally when I really didn't want to. I just was not. And I'm the type of person, if you're not around, I don't search, I don't look, I'm good. I don't have to ask you no questions because my core family are the people who I love, and they don't have to be blood related. I just love you, and I was good. But she's like the life of the party. She just, but like when it's tough, that's when I want a mom. Well, like I'm really like going through,
Mhm.
sick, And not saying she's not there, but I just don't always feel the motherly. I feel like she's a
Feeling.
great friend. I feel like she's a really, really good friend of mine. But I just want that, like when she hugs me, I just want to feel like she's my
Yeah.
mom. And my former husband said, I put too much expectation on her and I put this standard on her that she probably could never live up to. And I don't say it with my mouth, but he said I say it with my presence. And I've apologized for it, but I don't even know what to do with that.
Right.
And I've had two ladies in my life, Lady Dorothy Johnson and Lady Vicky Embry, who mothered me. Ooh, and I mean, they got in my heart. Ooh, and they have mothered me. I mean, helped me raise my children, helped me when I was a wife. I mean, they were just there, and they didn't replace her. But that little spot
Right.
in my heart that was really empty, they kind of filled it up. They kind of filled it up. And my mom does have a piece of it, but I want them fuzzy, feelings for her, and just so I call her every day. We talk, but I don't want her to be my girlfriend. I want her to be my mama.
Right.
And
You
y'all
know,
seem, go ahead.
oh no, I just wanted to jump in. I was looking for a hand raised and I realized there was none. Okay. Okay. I just wanted to go back to the part about you said you didn't want to take her from the children. That was part of why my mom and I started talking, because I really felt like when I got out of foster care, like, I'm never talking to her again. I just didn't care, to be quite frank. But when I had my son, I said, well, I never had grandparents either. Like I always longed to be like, oh, I'm gonna go to grandma's house. And I've never experienced that ever. So I said to myself, I don't want to deprive him of having that experience. But I still was like, but I'm not going to deal with her. So I would take her over here and I still would be kind of standoffish, but I'll let him, bond. And I realize now, looking back, like that was God on purpose, keeping the connection going. But I still had in my mind, like, I'm just cutting you off. And then about 24, I think it was, I lost my job and ended up having to move in with my mother. Trust me when I tell you, I called every shelter, every rock. I'm like, please, just no, I can't do it, God. And God said, yes, you are, because you keep talking about you're going to forgive and we're going to, get it going. And see, a lot of times you think you forgive, but yeah, it's easy to forgive someone you never see. It's easy to forgive someone you don't interact with. Of course, yeah, you forgive them all the way. God said, And I said, okay, well, God, I'm going to go, but I'm only staying 6 months because, see, I can get a job. I'm highly qualified. No, like he doesn't know me. I have this and this and this and this. I said, okay, I'll stay 6 months. You know how long God kept me there? 4 years.
Wow.
I'm talking about I went through some serious depression. I just went through everything. But looking back, like I had to go through it. I had to go through, and that was the very first conversation, those 4 years that I had with my mom about leaving, because I would forget. Like I understood about her being like my friend. I would talk about the things that happened to me in foster care and forget like who I'm talking to until she would have this look on her face of sadness, and I'd be like, oh, I shouldn't have said that. I hurt her feelings because I would forget like I'm talking to you. I'm looking at you just a friend, and then one day she just cried and cried, and I had never seen her emotional. I had never. I just stood there in total shock, and she just told me, I didn't mean for all those things to happen to you. I really thought it was the best for you because I couldn't take care of you, and I had never knew any of that. I never knew. Like I heard different stories while I was in foster care, but I had never heard it from her. First of all, it was always the stories I heard around the world. And that was the first time I ever saw her like human, and I would say mom, but it wasn't that I really felt those feelings. Like you said, it was just a title, like a name, like Mary, Jane, Sue, Mom, Deborah, it wasn't like, and so that's part of, I still, deal with that. Like I'm never going to have that mom daughter relationship. It's just never going to happen. And now with the dementia, it's like extra robbery. Because not so, and it really was hard because I'm like, not only do I have, it's hard coming out of foster care and then all your other family talking about Don't you remember when we did such and such and such? And don't you remember we went here as a family, and you're standing there because it does not apply to you. You don't have those memories. You don't share those experiences, good or bad. So you feel like an outcast, and you already feel like one, but you really feel like, you really feel like one. And then now with the dementia, it's like, wow, I don't have memories from then, and I don't have memories from now either. So when I went to see her, and I stalled a little to go visit her because I was like, what if she doesn't remember me? It's like I never existed. And I'm like, that's just too hard because I finally existed after all those years of foster home, foster care. I felt. But when she looked at me and she smiled and I knew that she recognized me, it just, warmed my heart. And I know it gets worse as time goes on, and I try not to, disillusion myself, deal with reality. But for that moment, I was just like, wow, thank you, God, because I really need that. So I just, like you said, I just have to be content with what I have, make the most of it, and I have had wonderful people. Miss Minnie, God rest her soul, to come into my life and be that mother. You're right. It'll never replace her. It never will replace that longing, I don't think. Because you want what you want. The heart wants what it wants. And that's just it. You know what I'm saying? But I just say, well, God, help me to be content. And I have to remind myself, that you always knew this would be my life before I
Right.
had a life. You know what I'm saying? And
Right.
and he made provision for it. He already knew, and he has provided. So
Yeah, that's one of the things I relate to that in so many ways about calling her mom, but not really having that emotional attachment to it.
right.
Um, but I've also come to this place where I'm like, God, for whatever reason, this is what you gave me to deal with. You know what I'm saying? Like I still don't understand it, but I'm like, okay, I gotta find the purpose in it, as
Absolutely.
hard as it is, because I'm like, there has to be a reason for it. Like God doesn't do things just to do it. He's very intentional. And so I've had to, that's where I found my most comfort, is just like, God, there's purpose in it. There's a reason why it happened this way. There's a reason why we connected. Because when I, as it thinking back, even once I went to my first uh session of counseling and asked her why she left the first time, I felt like that was it. Like, and then I felt good. I was good. The depression stopped. I stopped having those cycles completely, and I was good for a few years. And then suddenly, like at 36, I started feeling like I want a mom. I want my mom, you know what I'm saying? And then but I didn't know how that was going to come about either. And then now building a relation with her now and talking to her and just being able to sit at the table, we sat for hours and just had a conversation, and it was no argument, it was just, it is what it is. Like, I'm 40, you're 63, like, let's just talk this out. And I thank God, because I just didn't know, I didn't think this could ever happen. I didn't see that it was gonna ever happen. I just kind of felt like, a journey, you need to suck it up and learn how to live without her, without what you're looking for. And one other thing I'll say is, like, I think that I have another best friend. I have two best friends, Lady Vines, and I have my best friend Camila. And the devil tries to set you up with certain things, particularly when you're a child. And if you don't get the support that you need, it will hold you hostage for the rest of your life. Um, my best friend Camila, she also grew up without her mother in the house. And so, and her mother passed away when we were about 20. And so I kind of felt like, um, we, like, God put us together for a reason. And it wasn't, and not to say that God didn't put us together for a reason, but what I'm saying is the enemy tried to make me feel like not having my mom, or that desire, not having my mom was normal, which is not. But I had to, like I said, I had to learn that there was purpose in it. You know what I'm saying? And having a friend who also had the same thing, we could have bonded. We did initially bond off the fact that we're like, oh, our moms are deadbeats. Like literally, that's what it was me, her, and another friend, and we were like, oh, our moms are deadbeats. Like we live with our dads, and but as we got older, we're just like, I realized it wasn't necessary to hold us back and to get comfortable with that or to have a negative relationship with our mom or attitude about our moms because of it. It was really it really was supposed to be a support system, really. You know what I'm saying? And it's, I think I'm kind of losing my train of thought because there's so many things when you talk about this, like so many emotions come up, so many thoughts come up, but at the end of the day, God knows.
Right. Exactly.
Before I
I
was formed
know.
in my mother's womb, God knew, and I had to find comfort in that. And even now, I'm like, even though I'm accepting what she has to offer, and I'm not saying it in a negative way, like, oh, I'm just settling for her. I'm just saying, like, who she is, I have to receive that and expect and take what she can offer from what she can give. But um uh I've also have learned to to embrace the relationships that I do have with the women who have shown up for me as a mother, and stop and working on stop pushing them away, because God does provide. He is Jehovah Jireh. He will provide, and he has provided. But if we don't take the time to accept what he's provided for us, we can't say that he hasn't provided it, because if we pay attention, we'll see that there are some great relationships that will fill those voids if we allow it to, if we allow that to be the provide, to accept what he's provided for us, and to be content with what he's provided for us.
Right. And I just
Has not having a mom impacted your relationships, like with marriage or with your children or child?
For me, I'm just like Joe. I have one son. Well, I don't know how many children she has, but I have a son. I
more
have a
than
son.
way more.
Yeah, so I have a son, and what it did, the way it impacted my parenting was that I wasn't always, well, because of what happened, because my mom left and I never dealt with the emotions of it. I've been, in general, just a very emotionally detached person. And so, as a parent, the way it showed up was that while I was always present and adamant about being there for my son and taking care of him and raising him and being everything I could be to him as a provider and being like physically present for him, right? I wasn't emotionally present for him. I remember when he was probably about 6 or 7, he fell off. He was learning how to ride a bike and he fell off and he was crying, like he hurt himself. So he was crying. And I was just like, it's okay, get up. And I wasn't like, oh, you're a boy, you can't cry. But I was just like, you're okay, just get up. Like, it's okay, get up. Don't stop crying. Just get up. Let's go. Let's get back on the bike. Don't cry. And he said to me, he was like 6. He had to be like 6. He said to me, Mom, you didn't even ask if I was okay first.
Mm.
And I just didn't realize that emotionally I just wasn't available to him. I was so focused on being there physically because that's what I had missed, that I emotionally wasn't just connecting with him. Like, and thankfully once I got married, I had a little bit in dealing with my own stuff, I became emotionally connected with my son. But by that point he was like 8, so it took a long time for me to feel that emotional connection with him. And even now I still struggle with it in some ways, because he's very affectionate and stuff like that, and he's 19, but he still, when he comes home from school, he wants to sit on my lap, he wants to sit in my office, and I'm like, what do you want? Like, why are you here? And he just wants to be around me. And he's just bonded to me, and so that's how it shows up in that way. In my marriage, it has been the biggest battle, because my husband is a Southern man, and I'm from Rhode Island. I'm a Northerner. We're just a little bit different in that way, and Southern men have love to be catered to, and Southern men are just very their women take care of them, and I'm a Northern girl, and I'm like, I can take care of you, but you so so we deal with that sometimes. Um but yeah, in my marriage, that's been the biggest hurdle. It's like trying to make sure I'm emotionally available. I'm a problem solver by nature. If you tell me you have a problem, or something's going on, I'm looking to solve the problem, not to coddle you. And not to say my husband needs coddling, but what I'm saying is I'm just not always like a listening ear, because I'm just like, okay, how do we fix this? That's all I'm worried about. Like the emotions behind it, I'm not always able to deal with that, because when you're not in tune with your emotions, you can't deal with other people's emotions. And so that's something that I continue to work on. And I have to be very mindful of it, and it's not because I'm traumatized or unhurt or anything about my mom anymore. It's just more so it's been the way I've operated for so long that it's foreign for me to act differently. And so, I'm learning to be emotionally available for not only my husband, but my friends. And Jasmine is a different kind of, she's Southern girl, I'm a Northern girl, like we connect. But she's one of my best friends, so I'm like, I need to when I look at other women, sometimes I'm like, they're just so girly girls, like they're just so emotional. And I'm like, not emotional like in a bad way, but they're just so affectionate to their friends. Like, and like I probably hugged Lady Jazz like probably like 5 times. Like, I mean, we just do a good quick church hug, but I'm like, that's my girl, I love her, but so it's just like it's just not the normal. So I'm always mindful of my emotional connection to people, and trying to make sure I show up for them.
Joy.
Okay. Well, first I just want to say this a little off topic, but not really. I'm just so excited because just today, one of my cousins was given up for adoption 23 years ago, and they found us, and today we reunited. So that's where I was right before we got on the air. So I just had to get that out.
Yes, that's amazing.
I think this is like very, very important subject here,
Right.
Anyway, as far as my marriage, I'm not sure. I want to say that probably not having my father around affected me more, because there was no example of manhood. That whole, you want your father to give you away, and it's just, I think that probably affected me more. I'm not sure, but because again, I wasn't around my mom to even have examples of, I would hear things like she was a fighter and stuff like that, but I don't know any of that, so I can't say. But as far as parenting, I'm definitely can say being there emotionally has been a total struggle. From the oldest one that's 33 to the youngest one that's 12, and all the other ones in between. I remember, and I deal with guilt on this, and so that's why I'm exposing it right now, by the way. My oldest one, I was working at the American Red Cross here, and it was a big snowstorm. Buffalo, New York, was having a snowstorm. But it was funny because where we were, there was absolutely no snow. The sun was shining and everything. But where I worked, which was only maybe 20 minutes on a bus ride, it was chaos. Buses were stuck in the snow. People were, and my son, I think he was like 13 or something at the time, was like, "Mom, don't go to work because it's really bad out." And I'm like, "Well, people need blood. Because, when it's a storm, people need blood because there's accidents and there's cars." But I didn't discern that he was worried. And he was saying, "Mom, don't leave me. It's bad out," because I couldn't see that it was bad out because he was on a bus coming from school. So he saw the bad. But I was at home and it wasn't bad where we lived. And I went, and when I got off, I nearly didn't even make it because the snow was piled up. And by the time I got to the job, I was like gasping for air, and I like passed out at the door trying to walk through the snow. And I called him, and I hope I apologize. I'm gonna call him after this and make sure I apologize, even though it's 100 years later. But I didn't discern that he was worried about me, and he was saying, "Don't go to work." And and maybe, and looking back, he probably felt like, "Wow, you care more about those people than you do me." But I didn't look at it like that. I didn't know anything about that because I just didn't know. It was just like, this is what you do. You get up and you go to work. Again, being here physically, I'm like, I gotta get to work because I gotta pay the bills. We still live with grandma. I'm trying to move us to our own house. So that's all I could see. Because I could physically have to provide, but I didn't understand emotionally. And even now with my twins, they're 13. I'll get up and I'll just be like, you didn't do this last night. You didn't do that. Why you didn't put this away? And I'll just start going in. And the more talkative one, they would be like, wow, but you didn't even see that we cleaned up our room. I mean, granted, we didn't put the bread up, but we did clean up our room. And I have to be like, wow, you know what? You're right. You did do a great job cleaning your room. And my son, Prince Izzy, Prince Izzy, my shadow. He's so affectionate. He's always hugging me, always kissing me. And the girls are like, oh, gross, But and I find myself like at first pushing him away because it was just like too much affection. But now, I don't push him away as much, but it's almost like I cringe because I'm just like, and not that it's terrible or bad because my son, I love him. I'm just not used to it.
Mm.
And it's awfully funny because I think God just did it on purpose. That's what I believe. God made him over affectionate on purpose because it seems like those days when I'm just like, oh, stay away, stay away, stay away. He's like extra affectionate. It's like God is like, no, kiss her 10 times. Kiss her 20, So, but I know that it's God just working it out in me. I know that it is because one of my twins is like that too. And she said, you never kiss and hug me. And I don't. But the reason I don't is because you can see from her whole demeanor, like, don't touch me, don't hug me. And when I went into the hospital a couple weeks for my back, she hugged me and I was totally shocked. And I told her, I said, it took all everything in you to give me that hug, didn't it? And she said, yeah. Because she just is not emotionally connected. And I'm just like, and I didn't realize how I was until I saw her do it. And I said, that's what I look like. That's what it feels like to other people when I'm not emotionally connected to them. That's how I feel. I feel rejected when I go to hug her and she turns. I feel rejected. But she'll say I love you sometimes and she'll, whatever, but she doesn't want to do the touch thing. Some people just aren't touchy-feely people. I understand that. But then it comes a point that sometimes you just have to learn sacrifice and say, well, love languages, like we always talk about, that's how they receive love. That's how my son understands love, food and touching. So those days when I don't really feel it, I just be quiet and I take the hug. You know what I'm saying? Or my other daughter wants to feel it. And if I don't feel it, I just, God, help me to show love. Because, we're commanded to love whether we feel like it or not.
Right.
We're commanded to love. So, Lord, help. So that's my prayer. Help me to love.
Right. And I relate to that as well, Joy, because I feel like the same thing where for me, I love by doing.
Right.
So if you, Christmas time, like it's like my favorite time of year because I like to buy gifts. Like I love to buy gifts. That's my way of showing you I love you because I'm going to get the things you probably mentioned casually. And
right.
I'm the person that's like screenshotted it. I know what you want. If it's your birthday, I know what you want because I pay close attention. And so for me, I'm like, I love through gifts. And what I had to learn, and just like Ms. Joy was saying, is like, you gotta when you think about love languages, you gotta understand what the other person needs to feel that love, and I know this isn't about love, but I'm just saying,
Yes,
like,
it is.
emotionally,
it is.
it's easier,
It is.
right? It's easier for me to buy you a gift than for me to give you a hug.
Right.
Because I'm like, I'd rather buy you some sneakers than have to tell you to have to hug you. I'll tell you I love you, but I love you by doing, not necessarily by affection.
Right.
And so I know my son knows I love him, but he definitely looks for that. And he's very, like I said, affectionate, where I just want to sit here, Mom. And I'm just like, okay, I guess. Like, I'm always thinking, like, what do you want? What do you need me to do? And he's like, I don't want nothing. I just want to sit here in your office while you're working. Okay,
Right.
great.
Right. I'm like, you're sitting here for
Right. I'm always thinking,
Yeah,
like, what
why?
can I do? What can I do that's gonna satisfy whatever you're looking for? Because just sitting down on a couch with you seems like, weird.
Right.
Um,
But
so
you just
yeah,
said it, Adrena, satisfied.
right,
And you are now satisfied with the relationship you're building with your mom. That is the same satisfaction your son is getting just sitting on the couch with you.
right, right. That's true. That's true. I kind of heard that in my head when I said it too. I did.
And I'm like the total opposite of both of you. And Adrena knows Joy's been in class. We took a class like 2 years straight together. But
Mhm.
Adrena's around me physically. I'm totally different. I immersed myself in my children. And not where I'm overbearing, but just, and then I was molested too as a child. So proper hugs and proper touch. I had to teach myself that. Like there was a certain way I didn't let my kids kiss me or sit on me or touch me as little because I didn't want to harm my children. They just said things to us years ago that they don't say now, that you're going to be a lesbian, you're going to be promiscuous, you might do it. I mean, that's the way they taught us when we were younger.
Right.
So I
Hmm.
was making sure that I wasn't going to do anything. But I immersed myself in my children, telling them all the time, I love you. And I guess I was teaching myself because I never really heard I love you as a kid. Because my foster parent, which was my grandmother, who was my father's mother, who my father really wasn't in my life that much, she didn't say I love you. She worked. We had all things, but I remember her hugging me once. That was my graduation from high school. So
Oh.
that that hunger for love, I had to learn how to do it. I practiced it on my children. I
Mhm.
practiced in talking to them, touching, rubbing on them, letting them kiss me as they got older. When I knew it was normal for a kid to kiss their mom, I
Mhm.
just immersed myself in my children, wanting them to love me, and I wanted to love them back. And I think now they say you too emotional. So,
Well,
but
I didn't.
I will cry at the drop of a
Yeah,
hat.
me too. Well, I just wanted to clarify something right quick. Now, that was emotionally wise, but as far as like physically, definitely. And I could probably say I probably do well, I don't know. I've heard that I do too much. I don't think so. But because I didn't have that, I always find that I'm just like want to show my children more of what they see. Like I'm the parent that has like the son doing Chinese. I teach sign, they're in dance, they play instruments, and that's how to me I show love because I want you to see that there's more to life than what you see when you walk outside your door. Now, one thing I will say, I can say plenty of negative things about foster care, but one thing I will say that's positive is that it did expose me to different avenues and areas of life I probably would not have had exposure to had I stayed with my biological family. So it was like a double-edged sword because I came back to live with my biological family and it was like, why do you act like you're too good? Like, you always act like you better than us and stuff like that I didn't understand why people would say that. But I guess looking back, it was because I had experiences that they never had. I played the piano, I went horseback riding, I went to camp, I did all of these things that I guess, they didn't do. So yes, while I sat there and I felt out of out of sync with them because I didn't have their experiences. I had to flip it and say, you know what? They probably feel just as out of place because they didn't have my experiences.
Right.
But I look at it like all of those experiences, good and bad, make me who I am. And so therefore I say, okay, you did a great job. Come on, let's do this. I'll just real quick. My son and my daughter, but my son in particular is studying practicing a dance to go to a Star Search competition in May. I said to him today, don't let anybody clown you because you're dancing. He said something like, yeah, that's what I'm afraid of. And I said, you know what? And the Holy Spirit said, Elvin Ailey Dance Company. I said, let me show you something. I went on a computer and I pulled up these photographs of his dancers, men in the air, legs totally extended. He was like, wow, mommy. And so therefore, because for those of you who don't know that I homeschool my children, we're going to go on a field trip to the theater. I'm going to buy tickets and we're going to go watch men dance because I want him to know, like, you are important. See, I didn't get any of this. I learned as I went. Now, you know, and it mislearned really, but I do totally tell emotion and I let them know, listen, you are important. You are special. You know, I have some children that I adopted, you know, and I have to let them know God meant for you to be here with me. God, you know, you have to forgive your biological mom. We call her tummy mommy. You have to forgive your tummy mommy, you know, but she did the best that she thought was right at the time. But whatever is, you know, God knew the plan for your life and he planned for you to be here with me. You know what I'm saying? And so I felt like, honestly, where I messed up with the firstborn, because, you know, it's a firstborn, that's a guinea pig, but child.
The trial child.
Yo, you that's a trial child right there. You know, but he's giving me time to kind of like work it out and you know, make up for it or whatever. So that's me. I'm constantly, you know, yeah. And I do say I love you because I do love them. And I never heard that. Like I said, I never even heard till I was 12, which I know you heard this before, Minister Claudette. Till I was 12 that somebody said I was beautiful. This complete woman, stranger, was like, why do you talk like that? Because I use profanity every second. Why do you talk like that? You're so beautiful. I didn't know who she was talking to. I looked around and said, who? And she said right here, you. I just couldn't believe she said that. I had never heard that in my life. You know,
I wanted to ask a question, and maybe y'all can help me because I think I've been on this journey longer, but it looks like y'all have more resolve than I do. And my question, my mom is a great lady, but she mothers a lot of other people and loves on a bunch of other people. And I find myself having a problem with that. Like help raising other people's grandchildren. I think that I'm not resolved to that. How do I get past that? I don't have no problem. There are other women that call her mom. I have other kids that call me mom. So I can't be just, but they're getting something from her that I didn't get. So how do I get over it?
that's a good question because I know I had a conversation with my son. I hope he doesn't mind, but it's not bad. So he said the same thing to me because our relationship is really estranged because I had it when I was 16, but I was really literally not just a kid in age, but I was still a little kid in my own mind, in my own spirit. So I was trying to hold on to him because in our family, like everybody's been in foster care, a generational curse. I'll just expose that too. And I was determined like my child is not going to foster care, although I didn't really know how to prevent it. So I did the best I could as being 16. But I was holding on to him while still trying to resolve my own mess, basically is what it was. So he grew. So when I got the kids that I adopted, he was just like, well, how can you take care of those kids? You didn't take care of me. And that cut me. But it was true. It was true. I was to agree with your adversary. And so I had to agree. And I look back and but when he said it to me, I had, you know, years and years had passed. So I was able to explain to him, like, I'm a different person now than I was back then. I could only give you what I had, which was basically nothing, you know, but I let him know. But one thing I knew for sure, like I didn't want you going into foster care. That I knew. And I was determined no matter what I did, no matter what I, you know, had to do. Like that wasn't going to be. I mean, we're okay now, you know, but I do see the enemy think he's slick sometimes and try to bring up old stuff, you know, and then I have to say, that's under the blood. That's under the blood. We're not going there. You know what I'm saying? But one thing I do allow my children, and some people say I shouldn't do, but I'm going to keep doing it. So there. Is I tell you, you are allowed to ask me anything you want to, anything you say to me. Because see, I was brought up, you know, like you don't question authority, you don't have feelings, kids are seen and not heard, and I don't agree with any of that. And I also don't agree with, what goes on in our house stays in our house. That's a flag for me. Because see, what went on in our house needed to be exposed. In the foster homes I was in, where I heard that, yeah. Because you never hear anybody saying, don't you tell anybody we hugged today. You don't hear anybody saying, did you tell those people I said I love you? You don't hear that. So when you hear, what goes on in our house, it's usually something because it's bad, not good. So I always tell my children, you're allowed to say anything you need to say to me. Just watch how you say it. Because I realize, first of all, they're not my children. They belong to the Lord. And he let me borrow them. And I have to give an account. So you can say what you need to say because, see, I don't want those feelings bottled up and turn into depression. And I wonder why she didn't say this and didn't do this. And did she really love me? And I don't want that. I was suicidal at age 12. By the time I was 13, I had tried to kill myself several times. And by the time I was 17, several more. And so, and basically, and a lot of that was just because of unanswered questions. Just wondering, and I wonder what it would have been like if this wouldn't have happened, and all of that stuff. So I definitely pour into my children that way. Like, listen, you're important. I don't care what they say. So I love topic, but there you
go. What I would say is because my mom didn't parent any of us, and she's not. She knows her grandchildren, but she doesn't really have a close relationship with them. So I don't feel any kind of way about that because we're all on the same playing field. None of us got none of us got more than the other, even though I think my baby brother is her favorite, but I think that's just because he doesn't remember as much. And I feel like it's easier to reconcile with someone who doesn't remember versus someone who does. But so with that being said, I think that it's possible that your mother feels like she doesn't have anything to offer you. It's possible that you're such a great mother that you remind her of what she didn't do. And so she gives from what she thinks to who she thinks has a need. And so if she doesn't feel like you need her, even today, while she may be mothering other people and raising other people's kids and treating them like they're her grandkids and stuff, it's possible that she doesn't feel needed. And it doesn't necessarily have to be something you said or did. It's an internal thing because, they make the decision. She hasn't explained her decision of why she wasn't present. And so there's those issues. And then, whatever issues she had already experienced and was dealing with that led up to the decision of not being present in your life, and not able to have that conversation with you, even though you've asked for an answer, tells me that she still hasn't dealt with why she left either. And therefore, if she hasn't dealt with why she's left, she may feel like she has nothing to offer. That's one of the things my mom said to me that when I spent time with her a few weeks ago, was that she kind of felt like we didn't need her. My dad raised us well, and when my mother left, her mother and her whole family, really, they loved my dad so much, and they knew it was my mom, and my mom literally left the state, right? So it was my dad's side of the family, my mom's side of the family, but like my nana, my mother's mother, moved in with us to help my dad take care of us for a little while. And then later on, my mother's mother introduced my dad to my stepmother, and that's who he married. And so we've always had a relationship with them. And so we still had a whole life going on, even though my mother wasn't present. And so she always felt like we didn't need her. We had a stepmom, we had my dad. My dad, we lived in a nice house. We'd go on vacation. My dad's always been a great person. My nana was there. All my aunts and my cousins on my mother's side was present in my life, and my family on my father's side. So only person was missing from the picture was her. And so she felt like why interrupt what they got going on when they're good? Like, why should I interrupt with my mess? Because, they don't really need me there. Like, I don't need that. They don't need me. And so it's possible that our parents, when they're not able to show up for us, is still they're dealing with that insecurity of, I don't feel like I'm needed. And so I give to the people who I feel like need some help. And if you don't raise your hand and say, I need you to be here, unfortunately, they won't stand up and be there. And it doesn't matter that they're the parent. If they're not there, sometimes we as kids, now that we're old enough to know better, we have to stand up and be like, hey, I need you to do this, or I need you to show up, or I need you, this is what I need from you. And then you give them an opportunity to do it from what they can offer you. It's like, if you come to their house and you ask them for a bottle of water and they only have tap water, accept the tap water, because that's what they have to offer. If they say, I have orange juice, so you have to express the need, because they may not know you have the need. And then once you express it, you get to decide if I can accept that or not.
I think I do. Maybe think. No, maybe. Don't let me lie. Don't let me lie. Tell the truth. I probably do make her feel like I don't need her because I don't want to feel rejected if she
Hmm.
can't do it.
Right.
And if there is a rejection, I know I can get over it, but it's taking me a while to get past it. And I just don't want the cycle to start again.
Right.
So
But you
if
have
I
to
don't ask
understand
for
that
any,
it's not a rejection of you.
Right.
It's based on what she can give you. If she can't give it to you, what you're asking for, I mean, I've been a single parent before, you've been a single parent before. um and it's like, your kids will ask you for something, you just can't give it to them right then and there. Or you may not ever be able to give it to them. But like, it's kind of like, you just have to, it doesn't make you a bad parent because you wasn't able to give Jasmine the Barbie dolls when she asked for it. It just means you didn't have any means to give it to
Right.
her. And so as parents, sometimes there's things, or people just in general, just like, you can be dating someone, and what the expectations that you place on them. First of all, a lot of times our expectations are unspoken,
Yes.
which are setting that person up uh for failure, because you have these expectations you
mm,
have not expressed. But then at the same time, you're dealing with the emotions of the fact that they're not meeting them, but you've never given them an opportunity uh to meet the need by sharing what the expectation is. I expect you to take the trash out on Tuesday, and then on Tuesday your kid don't take out the trash. You put them on punishment on Wednesday, but did you ever tell them, hey, I expect every Tuesday the trash to go in all the rooms, all the bathrooms, collect the trash, put it outside in the curb? No, if you never
Yeah.
expressed it, you can't expect it. And you can't be mad or punish them when they don't do it. And so I think, it's gonna be a matter of you expressing your feelings, expressing what the need is, and then giving her an opportunity to meet that need, or tell you that she can't meet it. But
I've been,
you can't deal with you're dealing with emotions of frustration and rejection and already, without even giving her an opportunity to not do that. You may say, I need you to call me every Monday so we can have, or mother and daughter tea every Monday, and let's just talk about life. And she might be like, okay, I'd love to do that, and then do it. But you won't know until you give her an opportunity. Otherwise, you're just mad and in your feelings, or
Right.
frustrated about something that she doesn't even know you're feeling or even desire from her, because you are such a mother that you're like everybody's mother, that she probably feels like you're her mother. Like, in some ways,
In some
you
ways,
she
that's
mother
true.
says
her.
that
So
all the
she's
time.
like, I don't have nothing to offer her, because she's good. She's good. And sometimes, I know, really quick, my husband said this, shares this sometimes, but him and one of his brothers, he felt like one of his brothers got more attention than him. And he would say later on in life, he realized, well, his parents didn't give him a lot of attention because he was good. He was like, oh, he gets it. The kid is like, what's it say? The squeaky wheel gets the oil or something, or if they hit whatever the sayings are. You know what I'm saying? But if you don't make the noise, then of course you're not gonna get it. And sometimes your parents are like, that one's okay. I feel like my mother feels that way about me. She's okay. I felt like she wasn't interested in me. It wasn't that she wasn't interested in me. She just said she felt like I gave her the hardest time. I don't recall giving her a hard time, but I think it probably was like I am such a daddy's girl that she felt like, but I've also never been afraid to say what I need to say. So maybe that intimidated her in some ways, so she kind of stayed away from me because she knew of all the kids, Adrena's going to say what she wants to say, and she's not going to, let it ride. She's going to, express herself. And so I think she felt like I just didn't need her or want her around. And I'm like, no, it's not the case at all. I did want you around. I just wanted you to own up to what you did and, be there for us, But the point is that if we don't express it, unfortunately, despite all, our feelings about what has happened, but if we don't give them a chance to do right and to fix it and to fill the void that we're missing in our life and give them those opportunities, then we can't, it's unfair to have such strong feelings about it.
Well,
Because at some point you got to do something, huh?
I got to make room for her.
You got to make room
Absolutely,
for her.
absolutely. A lot of times I'm going to say we, I'm going to say me. I kind of felt like, but you should know better. You know how we tell our kids, better. Well, how do you just know better? You don't just wake up and you're not just born knowing better.
Right.
But in my mind, I felt like, well, you shouldn't know better because you're my mother and moms know better. And so, of course, I became a mom. I'm like, oh, we don't know everything. But in my mind, I felt like you should just know how to treat me. You should just, know. And we don't. And people just don't know what they don't know.
They don't know. And then also, you got to think also, we live in a generation now, even though you guys are older than me, we still live in a generation now, in a time now where like therapy and everything like that is more acceptable, right? Yeah. It wasn't acceptable back then. No. So imagine some of the things that they had gone through that led up to them getting to that point where they felt like this was the best decision for whatever. Mm-hmm. They, at that point, you weren't encouraged to go to counseling. There was, you weren't encouraged to ask questions. You can't say anything about this. This person got this going on. No one can say anything. There's a molester in the family. No one's talking about it, even though Uncle John to mess with everybody's the little boys and the little girls. No one's talking about it. No, little Uncle John is still at every family reunion and no one says anything. I mean, it's all these things that they grew up with that I think contributes to getting to the point where they make that type of decision. And even though we may welcome them and open them up, like we're so woke, that we're like, oh, you can talk about these films. It's okay to ask questions. I'm the same way with my son. Ask me anything. Tell me anything. I want to know how you feel. You're a person too. You have feelings. We have all those things, but to them, that's completely foreign. Right. And even though we're giving them the opportunity, they're still kind of like, they can be in their mind like, I'm the parent. You're still not supposed to ask me about that stuff. And so they can't get past it. Even though you're opening the door and laying it on the table, they cannot get past the fact that that's not how they were raised and how they were brought up. And they're not immersed in this new culture we live in today, where it's like, ask whatever, say whatever, do whatever, think whatever, like they just aren't. So especially thinking about you all's parents, because they're so much older. They're 20 years older than my mother. So they're very much from a different generation. And
you know what? That is so true, because that was one of the biggest mountains to climb when my mom first came to live with me. She kept saying, this is not right. This is not right. I'm your mother. You're not supposed to be taking care of me. And I really didn't understand, because I would say, well, yeah, I am supposed to take care of you, just for the exact same reasons, but the opposite way. Like,
Mhm.
Even her count, even like we would go to the doctor and they'll be like, "Oh, so you're the queen at the house now. You get catered to. You know, people wait on you hand and foot." And but she didn't look at it like that was a privilege. She looked
Mhm.
at it like, but that's not right. It's out of order. I'm the mother. I'm supposed to be, mothering you, and you're supposed to be taking care of you and doing this for you. Instead of looking at it like, but see, I don't know. I don't look at it like that. When I get older, I'm gonna be like, that's right. You should take care of me because because I
Yeah,
sacrificed for you. Yes, children. I am exactly where I'm supposed to be. Thank you.
right. But
But
that's
my mom
probably
just don't
why.
look at it like that.
But that's probably part of the reason why she probably doesn't look at it like that is because she probably feels like I did not do this for you.
Right.
Because if she probably feels that guilt of why are you doing this to me when I never did this
For
to
you. That's
you?
very
Because
possible.
one of the things my mom said to me was that of all her kids, there's four of us. My mom has four kids, but she said of all of us, the ones who came and saw her, which is my oldest brother and myself, we were the last two she'd expect to come and help her. And I was just shocked that she would say that because I felt like I've always been responsible. I've always been like very welcoming, and I'm not super warm and fuzzy, but I'm like, it is what it is. Like, I'm just going to talk to you, but I've never been mean. I've never called out her name. I've never called her a crackhead. I've never said any of those things to her. So I was completely shocked that she felt like I would not come and help her if she needed me. And so I think it came from the fact that she was like, I didn't do those things for you. So I felt like you would never do those things for
Right.
me. And I'm like, over the past couple of years, even though we weren't in communication, I would send her care packages like every few months. I would just buy her this, buy her that. She has so much stuff that I bought her that when I went and saw her, I'm like, oh, I have that same magnet set at my house. And she's like, yeah, you sent this to me. And I'm like, oh, I didn't know. I've sent her so much stuff over the years. But even during that time, we weren't talking, but I did it because I'm like, I need to heal me. This is about a me thing. Like, I'm not doing this because I'm trying to guilt you into anything. I'm doing this because it heals a part of me and it keeps me from harboring bitterness
Right.
or feeling some kind of way. And so, but it's been shocking for her. And I'm like, it's really, for lack of better words, I'm like, it's really not about you. It's about what I need to do for me. And as a
Right.
Christian and the way I live my life, I'm going to love you regardless. And I'm going to honor you as my mom regardless. And, our parents can be Christians, but again, it's still different. Sometimes it's still hard for them to even understand it from that standpoint of, you're just loving on me because God said that's what I'm supposed to do. I'm supposed to love you. And
Right.
so I'm going to love you whether you accept it or not, and whether you reciprocate it or not.
Exactly.
That's just something I had to do for me. And so that's probably why she's feeling that way, especially because my grandmother's always like, no, when you're old, the children's supposed to take care of the parents.
Right.
And so most people feel that way. So it's kind of odd that she would say, oh no, it's supposed to be the opposite. No, she probably feels a little guilt because
Like maybe I
she didn't
could
give
do it.
that to you.
Right. Right. Right.
Hmm.
But I want to go to the part where you said about I know I was gonna forget. I was trying to should have written it down. But basically, okay, it'll come back to me. Go ahead. It'll come back. It's just right in front of my tongue. But
And this is such a sensitive subject. I have not said hello to everybody because they're just in the chat chatting.
yeah,
Yay.
LC,
everybody.
Donna, Elijah, Mother Francine, Harriet, Elsie. I thank y'all for supporting every week. But
Oh,
every time I
okay.
do a broadcast, I always want to learn something new about myself. And today, I appreciate both of y'all letting me know I don't think I've made room for my mother.
Mm,
And I always say I don't just want information or knowledge, I want transformation.
right.
And that transform my thinking today. That when I get back, because I'm in Alabama, of course, I'm supposed to be at the birthday party, but ministry, we doing ministry.
Amen.
Um, I am going to literally say, ask her, does she feel like I haven't made room? Because I am a big personality. I do
Hmm.
have a big personality, and I've grown accustomed not to need people.
Mm.
And if you failed me, I have, like, say for instance, we're in a meeting and the left side of the room is acting crazy, automatically my body turns right to who's receiving what I'm giving. Not that I'm offended. I just go where I'm needed. But if she doesn't feel needed, her body's going to the left.
Right.
Because that's what I'm giving off.
Right.
And I purposed in my life, because I didn't have a mom, that I was going to be the best mom I could, and that all my children were going to live in the house with me. That was just my goal, that my kids were going to know me from cradle to grave.
Right.
And that I was going to impact their life, that when my birthday and that dash in between, they would have something to say about me that I don't know a lot about my mom's life. I don't ask a lot of questions. I just think if she wants to give the information when she's ready, hopefully before she leaves here, because she's going to be 80, she'll want to. I just think that's just what, it's up to her. But I'm willing to take care of her, love on her, but I do got to make room for her. Emotionally make room for her.
Emotionally, yeah.
Because I'm emotional with everybody else. So I got to emotionally make room for her. And that is what I didn't. I have not done.
Right.
Okay.
Go
it
ahead,
came back to me. It came back to me. I'm so happy. Okay. Okay. The part where you were saying like she probably feels like, well, I didn't do it for you. That was one of the things that the enemy tortured me with. Remember I said he was literally torturing me. He was like, why are you doing this for her? I'm just being honest. She didn't do this for you. She didn't take care of you. She didn't wash you. She didn't cook for you. She didn't, and it just was on and on and on and on. And, and that's when you have to come to the point that you have to love for love's sake.
Right.
You have to love because it's right to do. Like you said, not because you're getting anything back out of it, anything like that. So that was definitely one of the things that I struggle with. Like, you know what? Because I had to find reasons. And when you have to find reasons because it's right is the only reason there is sometimes.
Yeah.
Because it was just like, and it would be hard because I would talk to people about it and they would be like, well, you really should take care of your mom. I mean, she took care of you her whole life. And then you'd be like, well, not really. And it was hard even coming from foster care, going to find say Mother's Day card. That was always the worst. Mother's Day was just horrible. Because it would be like, the card would be like, because you loved me, Mom. And I'll be like, well, let's put that one back. You watched me. I'm just being honest. Well, because you watched me grow up. Well, that didn't work. Okay, put that back. And I'll be like hours in the Hallmark store, like that doesn't apply. This doesn't apply. This doesn't apply. And that would be so hurtful to me. And that's because
I've had that same experience.
When I'll be like, you know what? I will never have the mother that these Hallmark card writers are talking about.
Yeah, I've had that same experience with the cards. It's so funny. I think that I hope that this is helping someone. If not, it's helping us for sure.
Definitely.
But I hope it's helping someone because I feel like like the subject of the live today is triumph after abandonment, and it's like the devil tries to make us feel like we're alone. And the more I started talking about what I went through, not having my mom, a lot more people kind of spoke up and would say that they had gone through the same thing. And this victory, the Bible says that we overcome by the blood of the Lamb and the word of our testimonies. And so I really hope this is helping someone because you're not alone in this. And it comes from all different ways. It could be your parent died. It could be because I've had women connect with me because their parent died at 13. They didn't abandon them, but it feels like abandonment. Exactly. It feels like it's not even, it doesn't matter what the root of what the event was. It's really the devil's trying to plant the abandonment, wants you to feel like an orphan. He wants you to feel motherless, uncared for, rejected, depressed. And because if he can trap you in those things, then you'll never fulfill your purpose in God. But one of the things, I realize is like, if in order to go through the process of becoming like a spoon, right? The spoon has to go through a process to become a spoon because it needs to it has a specific purpose. And God has us the same way. We have to go through our process so that we can become a specific person and can minister to people in a certain way. And so, all of this at the end of the day has truly worked for our good. Even if we're still in the process of it, it still has truly worked for our good. And there's purpose in it. And so, I really hope that even those watching are realizing whatever your situation is, doesn't even have to be this, but I hope that you're seeing that and begin to seek God for the purpose in it, because it almost eases your mind to know that I'm not the only one feeling the way I feel. Her saying the thing about the Joy sharing the thing about the card, I'm like, I go to the same thing. I thought it was just me, and it's something you don't want to say out loud. You don't want to be in the card thing, kind of like throwing the cards to the side. But I'm like, instead of looking for a mother card, I'm looking for a her birthday card. It's just a her, or so I it's funny that you said that, because I'm like, I struggle in that same way. But I made up in my mind, as of this year, that my mom would never spend another Mother's Day by herself. Because I spend Mother's Day, with my family, or we spend it with my mother-in-law, who I have an amazing mother-in-law. But I made it on my mom's never going to spend another birthday alone, and she will not spend another Mother's Day alone. And so I drove to go see her for her birthday. I didn't tell her I was coming. I just showed up with gifts, took her out to eat, and we came back and sat at the table and had our come to Jesus conversation. But yeah, it's odd. It's odd too. It's uncomfortable as you're going through the process. So that's part of it too. It's going to be very uncomfortable, but it's worth it. And, like I said, God, at the beginning, God will heal you in new ways, as you go through it and submit to the process that he has for you.
I wanted to say the part about you said Satan would trap you in an abandonment, and so you ultimately stop your purpose. It's so funny you would say that, because as I mentioned, I homeschool my children, and one of my twins said to me the other day, I think I want to go now. My son, I homeschooled since last year. My one daughter just started this year, both of them. But one of the twins said, I think I want to go to regular high school next year, just for the experience, which is really funny, because the whole reason she wanted to homeschool, because she didn't like the experience. She didn't want to deal with the fights. She didn't want to deal with the discipline of other people. She said, I just want to do my work and go home. I don't see why I have to sit there 30 extra minutes waiting for other people, blah, blah, blah. But then she said to me, I want to try it just for the experience. Immediately, I felt rejected. And I started saying, yeah, well, they probably don't. You probably not even going to have the regular experiences, because they don't do prom anymore because of COVID. And I started trying to give her all these reasons why she shouldn't do it. And then I realized, thank God for the Holy Spirit saying, it's not that is what she's asking is bad, because had she never homeschooled, she would have been doing it anyway. It's just that I was feeling like she was rejecting me. As if to say, you're not a good mother, or you're not a good teacher, or whatever. No matter how many times I hear that I am, that one time it was like, so I was glad that Holy Spirit brought it to me, and I was over it quickly. And I told her, I said, okay, said if you want to. And I said, again, I was telling yourself so that the enemy doesn't have power over you. I said, I was feeling rejected when you first said it, but now I'm okay. So, going to graduate this year from homeschool, and we'll see about next year. But that whole feeling of rejection, now it still can live on you. And I didn't even realize it really until she said that. Immediately was just like, oh, yeah, she just said, she's trying to say that I. And she, no, I didn't say anything about you. This was about her wanting to experience something for her life.
Right.
And I took that thing and internalized it. It wasn't even mine.
I used to do that with my husband in particular. I'd be like, does this lipstick look okay? And he'd say, oh no, maybe you should try it. Well, yeah, it does, but maybe you should try the purple one. And you might as well just slap me in my face, because now I'm thinking he doesn't like my outfit. I'm overweight. My shoes ain't cute. Like if someone said one thing about me, it was everything. It was just everything. It was a complete rejection of everything about me. It was my teeth are yellow, my hair, my skin dry. Like, it was just everything. And it could be the smallest thing. Like, you have, and I realized that I was doing that to people, and it was because it was just like, it felt like rejection for someone to say anything about me. Um, and of course, you know, when you cross over to 40, you be like, I don't care about nothing. So I definitely feel like I got my big girl underpants on now. But, you know, for the longest time, but I know I do realize that it was a part of that rejection. My brother would say, you're just too sensitive. You take everything so personally. And it's because I felt rejected. If you said something bad about me, and it could be, and it doesn't have to be necessarily about me, it was about something like, oh, you got ice cream on your face, and now I'm like checking my whole self out because I don't want anyone to have to say anything about me. I want to make sure my, you know, my hands are not ashy, because I'm paranoid and thinking that you're going to find a reason to reject
Wow.
me. And it's crazy, I didn't realize I didn't realize it was a rejection in the beginning. I just kind of thought, you know, I'm just self-conscious a little bit, but it was really the rejection. I felt like if you said one thing bad about me, then you didn't like anything about me.
Right.
I want to say that, Adrena, I am really, really proud of you.
Oh,
From
thank
when
you.
I've met you years ago to now, you're in a totally different place.
Yeah.
Because I could come up and hug you, and you literally will fall apart in the hug. And I was like, should I not hug him?
You're like, uh-oh, what happened?
I was like, what did I do? And, and it's every time you are just in such a different headspace. I'm
Hmm.
really, really proud that you have confronted the adversary and allowed him to know that you are putting up a fight.
I am. I appreciate you saying that. I used to cry all the time because you're such a mother. You feel like a mother. So it's just like, and I be holding on to you for dear life because I'm like, I'm not gonna get this for a long time because I
Oh,
don't get mother hugs. You know what I'm saying? Like there's just something special about a mother hug, and when you when you embody the essence of a mother, because I hug other people, and it's kind of like, I hug them like, okay, carry on, move about your day. But when I hug you, I always just felt like I'm not going to get a mother hug for a long time, so I'm just going to hold
oh,
on as long as I can. And it's funny because I feel like God was definitely setting me up for the stuff that's happened with my mom this year. Because I think it was about November or December, we were having worship, we were at church, and I don't know why or how I even got to my mother-in-law, but I ended up hugging her during the service, and I must have hugged her for probably like 30 minutes. I could not let go. And I honestly feel like at that moment God took the bitterness out of my testimony.
mm,
Because I would talk about it before and I would cry a lot because I was still so hurt by it, you know. And when I hugged her that Sunday, and like I said, it probably was about 30 minutes, I felt like I was telling, and now I'm gonna get emotional, but I feel like I was telling 8-year-old Adrena, like, I'm okay now
oh,
and you can just go. And because I didn't, it wasn't hurting me no more. Like I feel like I've had to let her go a few times and tell her it's okay to go, because that's the place in my life where I was stuck for so long. Um, and I know God set me up for it because I remember that Sunday by the time we left church, I knew that I had told 8-year-old Adrena it was okay for her to go. That I got this. Like I don't need her no more. I don't need her to hang around and make sure I'm okay because I'm really okay now. And I feel like the bitterness just left, because like I said, I've been sharing my testimony for at least 10 years now, but I would always still be so emotional about it because I still hurt in so many ways. And now when I share it, and I really haven't talked about it in a long time because I kind of had gotten to a point where I was like, I don't even want to talk about this no more. Like when you invited me, I told Jazz the other day, I was like, I just feel like I don't want to talk about this no more. Because I felt like I was getting it was too much for me. Um but it wasn't necessarily, it was too much for me in a way that I don't want to talk about it. It was more so like I don't want to talk about it from that broken place anymore. I only want to talk about it if I'm talking about how I got over it, where I am now, how God has healed me, how God has pushed me forward, how God has worked in my life like as a miracle. Like, you can get through it too, because I'm all the way through it. I'm not just like talking about being through it. I'm like all the way through it, and it doesn't hurt anymore. The sting of it, the bitterness of it is completely gone. And God set me up for that. I know it, because after that Sunday I couldn't figure out why, but I just knew. I was like, emotionally I had to let 8-year-old Adriana go. And then now being reconnected with my mom, it's such a easy place. It's easier. I mean, I'm anxious when I go see her, because I'm like, I don't know what to expect. But when I get there, it's so easy that I'm like, this has to be God. This has to be God. There's no other way. This has to be God, because I'm 40 now, and my mom left when I was 8. And I dealt with depression for 22 years after she left. And, I've been going through the past 10 years longing for my mom. And so now all of a sudden it's so easy. And I'm like, it's God. It's God.
And Joy, I wanted to say, from the time I've met you, the leaps and bounds that you have grown emotionally, you're at such a steady place now. And I can tell that you know exactly who you are and what your call is and what you're supposed to be doing. I am so proud of you, the mom that you are, to deal with everything that you have to deal with. But when we talk, when we see each other, we're in our lives. She's teaching a class that I'm a part of, a relationship class. Look, and she's my teacher.
Right.
And so you're just in just such a good headspace, a good place. And I want to give you guys your flowers and your roses. I want you to know I love you, because you came and you bared your soul. Some people couldn't have done what you're doing right now.
Right.
Because it would have brought up some funky kind of feeling, and you might not have been able to rest. But both of y'all are at such a peaceful place. Absolutely. And that y'all could give me what I need to take home tomorrow to my own mother, to make room for her.
Right.
And maybe that's why she doesn't feel always so comfortable with me. It's something that I could have done years ago, but today was the day for me to find out that I just got to make room for her.
And so God will help you. He'll help you make room.
Absolutely.
But I appreciate you guys, and there's no need for transparency if you're not going to change. If you're not going to transform and become better, why bare your soul?
Right.
Exactly. No point.
Ladies, I thank y'all for coming tonight. I appreciate you
welcome.
so much.
You're welcome.
You're so welcome.
I love y'all. And I
love
hope everybody that comes support, you got what you needed tonight. Yeah. Because I see some healthy women right here that I learned from tonight. And I honor you for coming. And we're going to wrap up another episode of Straight Talk Food for the Soul.
Okay.
Bye. Thank
you. Love you guys.
Right, have a great night.
Love y'all. Have a great night and a good weekend.
Thank you.
Guys.
Thank you very much. Bye.